Hello, everyone. I'm so glad we can meet like this each week. Do you ever wonder if you're attractive enough? It's kind of a trick question because we're going to talk today about the law of attraction. I want to suggest to you that at this very moment, you're ultimately attractive. We all are. Attracting everything that we hold in consciousness. We are magnets of mind. Whatever the mind thinks about, we draw into us. Attention is intention. Fascination is fertilizer. The world we see out there is not just a reflection of what's happening in here, but it's the magnification and manifestation of what's happening in here. So I want to tell you about two really interesting scientific experiments. One was done by a French biologist named Dr. René Payache. And he took a group of baby chicks and he imprinted them on a little round robot, a little cylindrical robot, kind of like the robot that runs around your living room, vacuuming it, a small version of that. Imprinting is when a baby animal, the first thing a baby animal sees, especially a bird, they think it's their mother, and they will follow that around as if it's their mother. So he took these chicks and imprinted them on this little robot, and then he set the robot in a small pen, and the robot was programmed to tool around randomly, again like the little vacuum cleaner in your living room. And he graphed where this robot went, and as expected, it went all over the whole pen, and if you looked at the graph, you'd see it covered pretty much most of the pen. And then he placed these chicks in a little pen to the side of the arena where the robot had been roaming around, and he set the robot loose once again, and a very interesting phenomenon occurred. The robot began to stick closer to where the chicks were rather than roaming randomly, and statistics showed that it stayed close to them 2.5 times more than it had when it was roaming randomly. So what's the point of the experiment? There was something in those chicks that wanted their mother to be near them. Of course, the robot was not the real mother, but they thought it was. And you could say their thoughts, now they don't have thoughts like we do, but their desire, their intention, their will to draw their mother unto them overrode the random programming of this robot. Interesting, isn't it? And there was another experiment. I don't know who did this one, but I'll cite it anyway. Some scientists took a room with a square room, and they put a light over it in the middle of the room, the ceiling, and they put a plant in the one corner of this square room. And this light had the capability to shift around, so it could actually, and again, it was a random experiment, it would just move around randomly through the whole room. Once they put this plant in the corner of the room, the light spent a lot more time focusing on that plant than it had when the plant was not there. Isn't that interesting? So similar to the chick experiment, something in that plant drew the light to shine on it more than when the plants had not been there. How interesting is that? So what this tells me is when there is a will and an intention, the universe has a way of accommodating it. And one of my mentors used to say, the universe rearranges itself to accommodate your picture of reality. Another way of saying it is the universe rearranges itself to match what you wish would be, what you love to have happen. Where there is excitement, where there is passion, where there's intention to draw into oneself, it does. So we're all ultimately attractive. If you don't think you're attractive enough, you're way off. You're way off base, because you're totally attractive. Now, I have a friend who's a very wealthy woman. She's done really, really well in business for many, many years. And a few years ago, Oprah Winfrey had kind of a contest and a retreat. She was taking, we'll say, 50 women to do a weekend retreat with Oprah. And most of the women got to be at the retreat by writing an essay, why I would like to spend a weekend with Oprah. And Oprah's staff sifted through all these essays, and they picked, we'll say, like 47 women who deserve to be there by virtue of their essays. They left 3 spots open as kind of a lottery. They just picked names out of a hat. So my friend, who was already a very wealthy woman, was one of the 2 or 3 women who were chosen by lottery. Now you would say, well, that's not really fair, because she's already wealthy, she's already successful, she doesn't need Oprah. Why not give the space to somebody who, quote, needs Oprah? However, the universe doesn't feel sorry for people. The universe is scientific. And so my friend is a money magnet. She's a success magnet. And so she's so used to manifesting things that will support her. She supports other people too as well. That the law of attraction got her there because she knew that on some level it was right and she deserved it and she wanted it. So if you want to know what's going on in here, just look at what's going on out there. And sometimes the manifestations are funny. Many, many years ago, I was traveling cross country with a girlfriend, and we got into this phase where we were fighting. We weren't getting along in this little van for weeks. And we were traveling through Wyoming, I believe, and we were looking for a camping spot. And we found this camping spot in a very, very remote place, so nobody else was around. And we got there. When we got there, there was one other car there. And we got out of our van. Those people were fighting. There was a couple fighting in their other car. So wasn't it interesting that out of all of Wyoming, out of all this wilderness, we attracted another couple who was fighting. But it was perfectly scientific, because the universe always draws unto you that which is a match to your consciousness and your intentions. So we were in the fighting consciousness. The universe had no choice but to send us some people who were fighting, because they were the perfect mirror to our own consciousness. What a good lesson. Now, if you've had a pattern, and it's not a good pattern, it's a dysfunctional pattern, and you want to switch it, the way to change a pattern is not by fighting off what you don't want, but by choosing what you do want and shifting your focus to all of what you do want instead of resisting what you don't want. So I had a coaching client who had been dating a guy named Chris. And after quite a while, she decided not to date him anymore because he was not emotionally available. And she said, I made a vow that I would not see emotionally unavailable men anymore. I would focus only on emotionally available men. And so a few months later, she was shopping in a mall with her 10-year-old son. And her boy was tugging on her sleeve saying, Mommy, why don't you talk to Chris? What are you talking about? Well, Chris has been standing here trying to get your attention for a couple of minutes. What? And this Chris had actually just randomly been in the mall with her, around her, and he noticed her and he wanted to come and say hi. But my client did not even see him because she had changed her energy and attention. He wasn't even on her radar anymore. She wasn't resisting him, but she just had made a pact with herself that she would only see emotionally available men. So he was an actual literal manifestation of her intention when she said, I, I refuse to see, she meant it would date any emotionally unavailable men anymore, but when the universe took her at her word, she literally did not see him. And so we get to see that which matches our reality, and we get to not see which doesn't match our reality. And there's a famous story about when Columbus and his 3 ships came to the Caribbean, what he thought was the West Indies. The story goes that these ships were coming up over the horizon, and the natives literally did not see them because they had never seen such a ship before. It was not in their reality, and it was so far out of their reality that they weren't even aware of it. It did not enter their physical vision because it was not in their mental and spiritual vision. So if you want to change your reality, focus on different things. Raise your frequency so that which is of a lower frequency can't even get to you. And I heard that if an eagle is flying at a low altitude, and let's say it has some food in its mouth, crows will come and peck at the eagle to try to get their food. However, because the eagles have a bigger wingspan and they're much stronger, they can fly to a much higher altitude. And so what they do is they just fly to the altitude that the crows can't reach, and the crows can't bug them anymore, because you're no longer a match to the altitude at which the crows are flying. So there's a spiritual lesson here, isn't it? If people or events or experiences or news is bugging you, you're obviously flying at an altitude or a vibration where you're buggable. However, because you're a spiritual being, you're a whole divine being, you have the capacity to rise to a higher vibration where the news or the gossip or the negativity or the criticism can't touch you, because that's at one frequency and you're flying at another. I'll tell you one more really interesting story that proves this. A friend of mine was a metaphysical student, and he was sitting in a fast food restaurant having a metaphysical conversation with his buddy. And they were saying, well, everything is reality, and matching realities and parallel realities. And so, that building right across the alleyway there, that could blow up. But if we were not a match to that vibration, it wouldn't even touch us. We would not be in that. We wouldn't even be in that reality anymore. And so anything in that reality we're impervious to, or immune to it. Speaking of immunity, huh? So then a few minutes later, these policemen run into the restaurant, and they run to the booth where these guys were sitting, and they start frisking them. And what had happened was, while they were having this metaphysical chat, two armed robbers ran into the restaurant. They robbed the restaurant, and everybody ran out. But these 2 guys who were immersed in a whole different conversation weren't even aware of these guys. And so they were impervious to the robbery. The robbers didn't see them, and they didn't see the robbers. Well, of course, the police let them go because they were not the crooks. But they proved their point that you have access to everything that matches the reality you're in, or the consciousness you're in, and you have no access to that which does not match your reality, and that which does not match your reality has no access to. You follow this? So our best contribution to attracting that which matches our higher vibration is to stay in the higher vibration. You cannot attract something of a higher vibration while you're in a lower vibration. It's scientifically impossible. You must raise your frequency, and suddenly you have access to everything that is at the new frequency, And when it's a lower frequency, you have access to everything that matches that. So life transformation is an inside job. We've been saying this in 1,000 ways since we began this series. So instead of manipulating all the pieces around you like chess pieces and hoping to line everything up, when you line everything up from the inside out, so then the outside lines up naturally with the least effort. The robot will come in your direction. The light will shine on your corner. Oprah will invite you to her weekend or something like that. But you have to be a match to it first. You can't wait for it to be happen and say, well, when Oprah invites me, I'll be a match to her. But when you invite yourself by raising your frequency, then Oprah will recognize, because just using Oprah as an example, it could be anything. That which you desire will find you. You don't have to find it. Find the right vibration, and everything that matches that vibration will find you. So I just want to remind you that my book Soul and Destiny is out. It's really a lot of great, just wonderful stories and examples of how our soul works and how we line up with our destiny and how we leave behind everything that's not ours and we attain everything that is ours. So check it out. And I also want to announce to you that we're going to have a new life coach training that starts in September. We have 4 spots open at the moment out of 24. So if you'd like to train to be a holistic life coach with me, professionally, informally, we're happy to train you anything you like. We have an amazing group that's starting, and we'll go really deep. And it will be my honor to work with you very closely for 6 months to really bring forth the best in you and help you bring forth the best in others. So I hope this is helpful to you. Nikola Tesla said that if you really want to understand the universe, what you need to do is understand energy, frequency, and vibration. And all the law of attraction is based on those factors.